I'm going to take you back to the very beginning of the PGR story, the prologue, so we can really build a comprehensive timeline of the story. Because of the changes to the story, new players are going to miss out on a lot of these details. So hopefully these videos are able to help you understand the story of Punishing Gray Raven. Also, if it wasn't as self-explanatory as I thought it would be, this is your final direct warning. This video includes spoilers. So, starting off, in the very beginning with the uncut prologue, you, the Commandant, are in the city 015, one of the many human cities on Earth that have fallen due to the robots that have been corrupted with the Punishing Virus, which has given them the sole purpose of erasing humanity from Earth. You were sent to this city with the task of clearing the city of the corrupted. However, the story starts you off with showing Lucia, your partner, battered and beaten on the ground. Lucia is the leader of the Gray Raven team that you subsequently oversee and direct. Not only that, but Lucia and the rest of the members of the Gray Raven team are constructs. Constructs meaning that they are robots, like the corrupted that you're tasked with exterminating. However, what sets them apart from those machines that are corrupted, constructs have a human-like consciousness, which is why we see Lucia on the ground, unable to keep fighting. Because that human-like consciousness inside of her is holding her back, a quote-unquote mental fatigue, making her too exhausted to continue fighting this battle even though you and her are surrounded by corrupted, coupled with her mechanical pain receptors firing off. Fatigued and in pain, Lucia makes a request to the Commandant to turn off her pain receptors until further help arrives to aid them. Well, reluctantly, you agree and use the Inver device. The Inver device, modularity reversing device, is the first line of defense for all constructs in Punishing Gray Raven, serving as a critical tool to prevent mind deviation and protect against the Punishing Virus. One of the many ways that it is used is by using the consciousness connection feature, like in this given moment. The consciousness connection enables constructs to share their consciousness with human commandants' mind beacons through a system connected to the mind, memory inductive neural depository, which enables their mental state and, well, subsequently stabilizes it. Or, well, in this situation, turn off her pain receptors and reset her system with those settings so she can continue fighting and protect herself and the Commandant. Luckily for the Commandant and Lucia, the battle that seemed like it would last forever gets interrupted by Liv, another construct and member of the Gray Raven team, warning that they should take cover, because moments later a massive laser is fired off to clear the corrupted, enough to give the two of you an escape route. At the very end of the road, the two of you are finally reunited with the rest of your team. Liv, who you spoke with earlier, that told you to get down to cover, and the new face is Lee. Yeah, everyone in this team has a name that starts with the letter L. I don't know. Anyway, that laser that came to your rescue was created by none other than Liv. However, because of this, her weapons are kind of fried now, leaving her pretty much defenseless and useless to you from here on out. However, job's not done. So you and the Gray Raven team continue to remove the corrupted from City 015. All of you have decided to head towards a signal beacon that was activated by another team, hoping that once you reach them, you can resupply and increase your odds of survival. But it wasn't going to be that simple, since on the way to that beacon, you and your team have come across an abandoned church. Inside the church, you're confronted, I can read, by a mysterious construct known as Alpha. At first glance, the team considered her to be a potential ally because she bared a resemblance to a construct. However, they quickly gauged that she was giving off massive amounts of the Punishing Virus and that she had most likely already turned to a corrupted. So you do the only sensible thing and throw Lucia at her. That was sarcasm given her condition, but it is ironic since during the dope fight, Lucia's mind does suffer from some unknown reason, leaving both her vision and thoughts hazy and unreliable. Since Liv is out of commission and Lee's attacks are useless, this causes Lucia to lose her battle. The battle costing her arm since Alpha decides to pin Lucia's arm to the wreckage of the church with a sword. In an attempt to distract Alpha, the Commandant fires off his pistol at her in hopes of saving Lucia. Though, obviously, this is nothing to Alpha. If anything, if she becomes amused and disgusted that Lucia is even still working with humans. And so, because of plot, Alpha sticks around long enough to have a conversation with Lucia and the Commandant, one that leaves her confused by Lucia's resolve to continue down the path that she set on with her team and the Commandant. And so after that, Alpha just dips, leaving you and your team to try and recuperate. Now, strap in, because we're about to go back in time a tiny bit, because sometime before these events, there was a painter bot that had gotten corrupted with the punishing virus. He even had a name, Anthony. This bot comes across a note that was left behind by another machine. This note causes Anthony to gain a tiny semblance of consciousness, claiming to have become enlightened by the contents of the note, also making Anthony crave freedom, happiness, and individuality. 3 things that otherwise would have never crossed a normal painter bot's mind. This note was so profound to Anthony that it even goes as far as to call the writer Sage Machina. And so with these changes to the painter bot, along with Anthony's past of being used by humans for their own gain, yeah, that's going to be the connotation that is going to be repeated constantly through this chapter. But moving on, Anthony decides to go on a journey to liberate other robots and share his message of enlightenment with them. So to do that, he encodes the messages that were in the note that he read into the graffiti Anthony draws throughout City 015, aiming to create a future where machines are no longer enslaved by either humans or the punishing virus. Surprisingly enough, the graffiti actually works. Some of the machines that do come across these images actually do end up achieving enlightenment as well, becoming less hostile and following Anthony as their quote-unquote leader. However, the other constructs in the area of 015 aren't the happiest with this development, because from their perspective, all they see is a group of corrupted that were previously believed to only operate as a hive mind, actually forming a coalition, which with their limited understanding of the situation is fairly reasonable for them to freak out over. So when they see the painter bot and his allies for freedom, the constructs attack in an attempt to prevent this camaraderie from spreading into something they can't combat. When Anthony is faced with these constructs, he believes that they are there to prevent him and his followers from attaining his freedom, happiness, and individuality. So from Anthony's perspective, the only right thing to do is wipe every single one of them out to protect his movement, to spread the Sage Machina's wisdom. Now, going back to the present issue at hand, Lucia fought Alpha and got her rear handed to her. Lee had to fix Lucia's arm. Liv is still incapable of combat. Do we remember all that? Because good. Because you and the Grey Raven team are back on the road, heading towards that signal beacon in hopes to properly resupply and get back to somewhat of a full operational capacity. We're back to square one here. Though, when you and your team finally arrive on the scene, all you see are scattered remains of constructs being scavenged by the corrupted. So, what do? You once again hurl your team back into combat, and Lucia breaks her arm. Again. Yeah, I mean, hey, at least she's consistent in something. Anyway, it wasn't all for nothing, because at a nearby bridge, there is a lone survivor from the decimated construct squad, and his dialogue is pretty much consists of the obvious. They got attacked by a large group of corrupted, got pushed back, and tried to retreat to this location, and well, you can see how it ended up for him. And well, putting aside the useless conversation, he himself was not useless, because the survivor thanks your team, gives Lucia a military-grade replacement arm, and also coordinates for some supplies to help Liv repair her weapons and get her back to running full capacity. Also, we shouldn't forget to highlight that with Lucia getting a proper replacement arm, we are finally able to turn her pain receptors back on. So we're no longer running the risk of her mind being potentially corrupted. The team sets off again towards the coordinates to retrieve those spare parts to fix Liv's weapons. Once they reach that said location, they find more construct remains. However, this time, all blown to pieces with paint all over their bodies. Hey, kinda sounds like someone I just mentioned a bit earlier in the video. There's a theme running here. Seeing the state of these constructs leaves the team in a foul mood. Lee going as far as saying that the scattered graffiti was horrid looking. Though, there's a whole lot more to that line from Lee. One being the, location of where they are. Surrounded by remains of comrades that are constructs such as himself. But also factor number 2. Lee was able to analyze the paint that was used in the graffiti and that was covering his fallen comrades. The graffiti and the paint holding some sort of binomial message to hopefully convert more corrupted. But also learning that the paint was primarily made up of construct vital fluid. This graffiti becoming more than just art or a message, but the blood of his friends and allies. Though, unbeknownst to Lee, you and the squad aren't alone. A dark and shadowy figure is hidden somewhere near, listening in on the conversation, displeased with Lee's remarks about their work. Also, if we're being honest, we all know that the shadow is the painter bot, Anthony. Like, let's be for real. The silhouette is the exact same. It's not that hard to recognize. But putting all that aside, we collect all of the parts, pieces, components that we need to get Liv back into fighting mode with her lasers being operational again. So Curiosity gets the best out of the team, wanting to figure out what happened to these destroyed constructs. Liv taps into one of the fallen constructs' mind to see what exactly happened to their fallen comrades. So once Liv battles her way through the broken and corrupted mind of the construct, while the rest of the crew protect her physical body, we learn that this squad was sent here with the same mission as us: wipe out the corrupted in City 015. However, this squad ran into a group of corrupted that were creating an organization, working with one another because of a strange piece of graffiti art. However, this group of constructs don't immediately take that as a sign to start fighting. They saw this as a sign of these robots gaining some semblance of free will. So they attempt to return to HQ as quickly as possible, but in the process of doing so, one of the constructs carelessly erases the graffiti, which causes our big boy painter and his followers to step in and wipe out the squad. Once our squadron learned the truth about what happened here, Anthony jumps out from behind the shadows and attacks us with his followers. But instead of fighting himself, he sprays Lee's jacket with his paint to get back at him for what he said about his paintings. Which, like I said earlier, his paint is mostly made up of construct vital fluid. So for Lee, he practically got his jacket ruined by some painter splashing him with the blood of his friends. I'd say that's reason enough to be pissed off. So, the big guy gets scared off because the Grey Raven squad and escapes from the battle, allowing us a moment to find out more information on him, to which we learn that the robot used to be called Nozzle, a painting robot that was created to do the quote-unquote biddings of humans. Not only that, but because Nozzle made such a careless escape, he left behind one of his paint canisters, cracked, allowing our team to track him down. Unfortunately, the tracking doesn't lead us much because the trail ends up stopping abruptly with no Nozzle in sight. Meanwhile, Nozzle simply goes on in attempting to complete his self-appointed mission, looking for more locations to place his graffiti to try and save more of the corrupted from the punishing virus. Though in his search of new canvases, Nozzle stumbled onto a battle scene where constructs were fighting against a mysterious figure that resembled that of an Iron Maiden. No, not the band. Anyway, my poor reference aside, he sort of just stands there and watches the battle rage on until the end where the constructs flee past Nozzle. To which the figure asks a very reasonable question. Why let them escape? Why would Nozzle not interfere and aid in defeating the constructs? To which my man delivers the most nonchalant response he possibly could, pretty much saying, if they don't touch his art, he doesn't really give a damn. And I mean, fair enough. Though the girl doesn't really share his ideals. So with pity and disappointment in her fellow machine, she launches an attack on Nozzle, to where he does his best to fight back, but it's a losing battle. However, his story doesn't end here, because his followers come in to his aid, holding back the Iron Maiden from reaching Nozzle and allowing him to properly escape. Jumping back to our squad, we receive a call from an organizer from HQ, her name being Celica. C-E-L-I-C-A. Celica. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Don't shoot me. Anyway, giving us a ring to check in on us. Using this opportunity, the squad asks if she could help us track down the rogue machine. With Celica's help, we have a new trail to follow towards Nozzle, but not without making a small detour. This detour is caused because of our route, one which causes us to cut through a shopping center of sorts, which leads Lucia to be distracted, making it so we as a whole unit need to take a small break. During this break, Lucia and Liv stumble upon two small abandoned plushies in the rubble. Deciding to take the plushies with them, we're back on the road. Once we reach the end of the trail and find Nozzle, we launch a full-scale attack on him and his followers to stop him from spreading his graffiti, to stop the organization of the corrupted, and because Lee is mad about his jackets. My man knows how to hold a grudge. And, well, because of Nozzle's desire to free the corrupted from the grasp of the punishing virus, humans, and ascendants, he fights back with everything he has and his followers. Though, because we make quick work of his followers, dropping them until they were all gone, Nozzle goes absolutely ballistic. His rage for his fallen allies causing the dormant punishing virus inside of him to finally fully take over. Now, truly putting in everything he has into this battle with more rage and the sole desire to eradicate all humans and constructs. Once Nozzle inevitably falls to the Grey Ravens, he has a final moment of control over himself, allowing him to get one final message out, to which he says that his battle, his loss, changed absolutely nothing. That the Sage Machina's will live on. That the pursuit of freedom for robots will live past his existence. Hearing those final words from Nozzle causes Liv to start feeling sad, to which Lucia does her best to chime in and reassure her that it was simply part of the mission and nothing more. With the desire to learn more information on what Nozzle had experienced and these mysterious ascendants that he name-dropped, the squad attempts to extract his memories, which is when we get another call from HQ, where we hear from Celica again, this time from a man named Hassan as well, who's the leader of humanity. The squad receives the order to halt their current mission of eradicating the corrupted in City 015 and return to Babylonia, where their HQ is located, due to a bigger issue happening in the city, which Babylonia is the name of a low-orbiting space station where humanity resides since Earth is currently uninhabitable. But that is pretty much all the information that is directed to the player within the prologue and chapter 1 of the story. However, I don't want you to just be told the beginning of this story and nothing more. I want each and every one of you to really think about what this chapter was trying to portray to us. After all, are we the bad guys for taking out Nozzle, who just wanted to liberate machines and give them freedom? Or are we the good guys, still fighting to reclaim humanity's home at all costs? Or is there more to this conflict than what Chapter 1 has made us think? I really want you to take a moment and figure out for yourself what you think and believe after receiving all of this information. By all means, go so far as to share your thoughts in the comments of this video, because I'll go through and read them. Because I tried to do my best here to show you as much detail from both perspectives to give you a full frame of picture as to why certain things happened, what beliefs fueled certain decisions, and so on. Because there's so much that goes into not only story writing these conflicts, but just conflicts in general. There is always more than one perspective of what is happening, but more so, there is always the situation where neither side will ever believe that they're in the wrong. That's just how it is. Until you are presented with both perspectives, or then a third, or then a fourth, because there are several different ways that you can look at something. And I think chapter 1 and the prologue did a phenomenal job in laying down the groundwork of what the conflict is, and also getting you to, well, not only one, get somewhat attached to the characters in your squad, because, well, it's a gacha game. They're going to want you to pull for these characters, for one. But also, it's a story. If you're not emotionally attached to the characters, the story falls flat. But there's also the second aspect of it, that it feels like it wants you to be thinking about these things. What does it mean to be human? We have these constructs that are machine, but have a human-like consciousness imitating humans. And then you have full-blown machines that are corrupted by the punishing virus. A third party called Ascendants that were name dropped. And you kind of get this overarching display of three different ideals and powers fighting for dominance in the space of the universe in the game. But I'm not going to keep rambling on about this. There's going to be more videos on the next chapters where we can keep talking about these ideas and story building aspects and just the story in general. But realistically, what I'm really trying to get down to you is think. Take in everything that is presented to you, all the information that you can possibly get out of the prologue in chapter 1. And I want to hear your personal beliefs and thoughts on what's going on. And also, I can't just skip past saying this, that if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It'll be one of the key indicators to help me determine if this is the kind of content y'all want to see from me. And make sure you hit that notification bell if you want to stay updated on whatever I do upload again, because I don't really have a schedule going on for me. Life's kind of crazy. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I'm just going to try to do my best. So until then, take care of yourself. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.